My name is Rabbi Levy. I am the Emeritus Spiritual Head of the Spanish and Portuguese Jews Congregation of England, which was founded in 1657. I arrived in this community when I was 12 years old, and I have served in this community for over 60 years. The four synagogues that have been chosen for this series are in fact unique. And what I'm going to try to do today is to show the link, the very clear link between these four synagogues. For you see, the oldest of all was, of course, Amsterdam. Amsterdam, that magnificent building which is still standing, and which served as the prototype of other later Spanish and Portuguese congregations. It was Amsterdam that not only had a magnificent building, but also had at the same time a yeshivot where the study of Judaism was intense and very important. In fact, when people used to go to see the Amsterdam of old, they would quote from the Tefillot, Ashrei ayin ra'ata kol ele. Happy are the eyes that can see such beautiful things. Their library, which is one of the finest in the world for Jewish manuscripts, is still there and is now part of the life of the people of Amsterdam. Now, from Amsterdam, people started coming to create the Spanish and Portuguese synagogue in London. It was Manasseh ben Israel, who came from Amsterdam, originally having been born in Lisbon, who asked Oliver Cromwell for the readmittance of the Jews in England. And subsequent to Manasseh ben Israel, one of our first Chachamim was Chacham Jacob Sasportas, who fought vehemently the false Messiah, Shabbatai Tzvi. He came to London and remained here for a year or two. We had another rabbi, Leon, who also served in Amsterdam and in London. And although the Jews came here in 1657, they did not build a proper synagogue until 1701, when the synagogue at Bevis Marks was built, which was based on the one in Amsterdam, but nowhere near as grand as the one in Amsterdam. We still have the candelabra like Amsterdam. We still have the pillars in the same way, and the whole structure is similar. Now, coming to the Spanish and Portuguese synagogue in London, they were able to help the two other synagogues that we are discussing, namely in Newport, Rhode Island, and the one in New York. The Newport that we have was started, I believe, in about 1760, and they already had links with our community in London. We provided them with one of their ministers, of their rabbis, that was trained in London and then went to serve there in Newport. I believe he served there as a rabbi. And in fact, they even made a copy of the famous Chauvet painting that we have of the Ten Commandments in Hebrew and Portuguese, with the figures of Moses and Aaron at each side. And then came New York. Although the actual synagogue of New York today is only just over 100 years old, the community, of course, started much earlier. And it started actually in 1664, when New Amsterdam was no longer called New Amsterdam, but became known as New York. And in fact, the first Jew that was buried in New York was a man called Benjamin Bueno de Mesquita, who happened to have been a member of the Spanish and Portuguese community in London. And now the links between the Spanish and Portuguese community of England and its younger sister in New York were considerable. In fact, so much so that to this day, on Yom Kippur and on Rosh Hashanah, the community does a special blessing for the success of the Spanish and Portuguese community in England. London sent to New York some of the most famous spiritual leaders of the Spanish and Portuguese synagogue in New York, like Henry Pereira Mendes or David de Sola Poole, who I still remember meeting when I was a young rabbi, a distinguished, elegant gentleman who really fitted so well in the background of the synagogue in New York. So not only did we help them by sending them chazanim and rabbis, but in fact it was almost embedded in their constitution that if they needed any halachic legal decisions, they would turn to the Sephardi Beit Din of London and get an answer from them. So you see, all the four communities have a direct link with each other.